My Uncle Bob was in the Merchant Navy and he taught me how to make this dish. This is Uncle Bob's Sicilian chicken. He spent some time in Sicily and he puts this together in such a beautiful way. Now it starts with some Maryland chicken, and the Maryland is the actual drumstick and the thigh together with the bone in. It's important you keep the bone in because that's what holds it all together and keeps it nice and large. The other thing I like with chicken is, of course, to keep the skin on. I find when you cook chicken with the skin on, not only is it nice and crisp, it's kind of like chicken bacon, but also it holds the moisture and flavour as well. Now my pans are nice and hot and some olive oil will go into the base of the pan. I want to sear off the chicken so it's nice and golden on the outside. That's what gives it lots and lots of flavour. You can see I'm using two pans. I like to use two pans because it moves things along really quickly. But if you wanted to, you could pop out to your barbecue, fire it up, and you could cook the chicken on there. You'll get some great colour and then you'll be able to continue on with the dish. Now I make sure I mop up all the little bits of salt and pepper from the bottom of the pan. And this is another trick. See the underside of the chicken, the undercarriage? It needs some seasoning on it as well. You can season it on both sides when it's in the bowl. I like to just pop it in the pan like this and season it upside down like that. Now that's ready to go. Now this will brown off nicely. It won't take long at all. And that's going to give me time to get everything else ready. But while I'm here, I'll show you how quickly it browns. See that? That's what I'm looking for, that lovely golden chicken. This is going to taste delicious. Garlic is really important with just about everything I cook, and garlic and chicken go so well together. What I'll do with this garlic, I'll just hit it with the back of the knife like this, and that crushes it. I want to keep it sort of whole, but I want it to break apart and release all the garlic flavour. The onions are really easy to do. I take the core out of the bottom of it like that, and then slice it fairly chunky. Because I've taken the core out of the base of the onion, I know these chunky bits of onion will just fall apart in the dish and they will taste delicious. And the core bits, I throw it in the dish. Once it's braised for an hour and a half, it'll just fall apart and be delicious. I'll turn these pieces of chicken over. You've got great colour on it. That's what I'm looking for. I'll pop these into the pan over here to continue browning on the other side. Now, it's not Sicilian chicken unless you get all the flavour in here. In goes the garlic and the onion. And at this stage here, you can always add a little more extra virgin olive oil. The olive oil has great flavour and it's just going to keep adding to the dish. As I add the oil, you can hear it starting to sizzle, so it's time to get everything else going. I've got some Polish sausage here, which I love. Normally I would use a Sicilian style of salami, but Polish sausage cut into dice like this will give it a great flavour. Now, something the Sicilians like to use is anchovy. They love anchovy and there's plenty of it in their cooking. I use some of the oil to give it a bit of flavour and pull out a couple of little pieces. Now, I use a fork because sometimes you need to wrestle it out. A couple of pieces in the side here like this, and with a wooden spoon, just stir that around. As the anchovy cooks, it'll fall apart and give it a great flavour. Now, if you don't like anchovy, you don't have to put it in there, but you'll find once it's been braising, the flavour of the anchovy isn't there, but it does give it a bit of saltiness. Now, you can't cook Sicilian chicken without herbs, and the herbs that I like to use are basil. Fresh basil picked straight off the stem like this and thrown into the pan. This basil will give it great flavour, and I will add a little bit of basil right at the end. Another herb I like to use is oregano or marjoram, whichever one you've got, and I like to pick it nice and fresh like this straight into the pan. Now, a little bit of a toss, so we want to mix that around, and you can see we've got some great colour going in there already. Olives, I love olives, and these are the pitted ones. Now, if you are using olives with pits in them, make sure you take the pits out of it. There's nothing worse than biting on an olive pit when you're not expecting it. And capers. I find capers give it a great saltiness as well, and these are quite large capers, and they have a beautiful, beautiful flavour. In they go, about 1/4 cup of them. Now, that's simmering along beautifully. You can see it's starting to cook down nice and slowly. All I need to do is let this simmer away for a couple more minutes. I'll stir it till it becomes soft and I'll be ready to finish it off. That's smelling beautiful and it looks fantastic as well. Now I'll add a little bit of butter because I just like to have that extra bit of flavour that butter always gives into the pan. That'll melt all the way through it. Chicken and butter go really well together. Red wine, I love red wine, and I'll put a good splush of that in there, about 1/4 cup. Now this is where I get the flavour from, the tomatoes. I've got some chopped and diced tomatoes that go straight into the pan. And these are really thick, so they'll give it quite a bit of body. Now, if you leave them like that, they'll actually be too thick because they're so good. So I like to add a tiny bit of stock, about a half a cup of stock. Now this is all flavour right in the pan here. A little stir around here and you can see how thick and delicious this sauce will be. Now the trick with this is, of course, to pop it straight onto the chicken here like that. Listen to that sizzle. With the back of the spoon, I smooth it around here like that so you make sure the sauce is in every nook and cranny. Now the trick with this is to pop it into the oven. I'll cook it at a low temperature, 150 degrees Celsius, for about an hour and a half until it's nice and tender. I'll know the chicken's cooked when I put my fork in there, the meat will fall off the bone. Into the oven we go. The Sicilian chicken is cooked beautifully and you can see the sauce in the bottom, nice and thick, and lots of lovely ingredients in there as well. The trick is to take the chicken out and then just spoon the sauce on like that, and the tomatoes have really thickened it up beautifully. That's what gives it a great flavour. Now I've made a little gremolata here with some lemon zest, some breadcrumbs and some thyme and a little bit of Parmesan cheese. On it goes like that, beautiful. Now I know the chicken's cooked because I tested it before, and when that meat just comes off the bone really easily like that, that's when you know it's nice and tender. Then pick a little bit of it up with some olive. That is really delicious. The capers have gone all the way through it. The tomatoes held it there, and a simple meat like chicken goes so well with this dish.